Welcome, welcome. Part 6, Chapter 42, Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson. Let's jump into it. Hello chat, hello people in the future. If you want to join along in this read, you can always find the PDF I'm using on this website here, gojek.work. Scroll down to the bottom, find the library section, click on primary texts, and you got the PDF, baby. Let's go. So last week we were learning about poop. T-Rex, hello, hello. Howdy, T-Rex. Howdy, Bob. Howdy, chat. So last week it was poopy gypsies. Hello, Nick. Poopy gypsies. Gypsies were poopy, and we're hearing their custom of how they bathe themselves. Yes, it's the poop group, Nick. It's the poop group. They dug a ditch, filled it with cow poop, lit it on fire, had it was like an outhouse that was filled with poop on fire, and they just had like a raised podium which they stood in and allowed themselves to get bathed in that gas, baby. And that was one of their customs. So we're gonna hear about the second one, and that's where we left off. So let's jump right into it and see what good old Gurgy Burgy has to say. So a second custom, very similar and seemingly just as stupid. So he does not respect the poop. I saw among the people of another small tribe called Tusule Kurds. So Kurds, but they're a little too silly. Dwelling in Transcaucasia, not far from Mount Ararat. This tribe is not filthy as is the tribe of Colenian gypsies, or of the gypsies, those gyps. On the contrary, from their daily bathing in the river Arax and existing mostly on the fresh air, being chiefly shepherds, not only are the people of this tribe very clean, but they even do not give off the specific odor which is peculiar to people of almost all the small tribes which populate this great Asia. Okay. So these guys are smelling fresh. Let's go. Each family of this tribe has its own what is called hut, which serves as a dwelling for the reception of guests, as the custom of visiting one another is highly developed among the separate families of this tribe. Okay, so everyone's connected. You don't need Facebook here. We all visit each other. That's nice. Family values. In each hut, it is customary for them to have in the corner of the front section what is called a sacred mungul. Okay, here we go. That is a hearth on which a fire of smoldering charcoal, or of the said Kiziak, what's Kiziak, we'll find out I guess, is constantly kept. And near each sacred mungul, there hangs a small wooden box called the what is this? What is this word? A K and a T next to each other? A Ktolnots. You need a vowel right between those consonants, bro. Come on. Ktolnots, which is always kept supplied with the roots of a certain plant. Okay, so hold up. So they got a hearth. Oh, hey, Ollie. Now, so you've made it to chapter 40. You just got to get through all these parts, man. This chapter is a beast. This chapter is the beast. So, what have we got here? They got a sacred hearth, and on the hearth they've got a little fire, and then there's a box hanging near the hearth, and it's a small wooden box, and it's kept with roots, and it's got roots of a certain plant in it. Okay, so far so good. This ain't too crazy. Why is Okay, here we go. The rite of self-fumigation consists in this, that every member of the family and every guest of either sex, yes please, before going into the principal section of the hut, is obliged to enter this sacred mungul in order, as they say, to purify himself from the influence of those evil spirits by which man is surrounded when he is busy with honest work. What's that, Bob? Kiziak is the quadruped poop. Is that true? Like Kiziak is a honest term, or are we just making lols here? Oh, actually that makes sense in that context. Of the said Kiziak. Yeah, that's right. Ew. Okay, so it's a poopy fire. So they have they got their tents, they got the yurts, and there's a hearth. And there's a poopy fire on it, and a box of roots. Okay, I can maybe see it. What are we gonna guess here? What are we guessing? I'm guessing that before you come into the main part of whatever setup they've got, you got to go to this hearth, and you got to rub yourself down with the roots, and then maybe burn it on the fire or something. Or what are we gonna light the root on fire and then brush it all over yourself? Something like that, like burning sage. Like you got to sage yourself with the roots of a that's burning with a poopy fire or something like that. Maybe. Yeah. I think that's where I'm guessing this is going. Let's see where he's at. So each person going into that must approach, take a few roots out of the hanging box, and throw them into the fire. Okay, so you just throw it in, and afterwards, in the smoke from the burning of these roots, fumigate his sex organs. So, okay, so it's not good doing it around yourself, but you throw the roots into the fire gets lit up, and then you get your junk and you hang it over the smoke, almost like an incense, like you're incensing your balls. That's so weird. But okay, so in the case of the woman, what do the women do? She simply spreads her skirts and stands over the Mongol. Okay. She hotboxes herself. Her vugu. Her little, the women have to hotbox their twinkle caverns to get through. Okay. That's an interesting custom. Tyler in the chat. You guys don't do this daily? Nah, Tyler. But we just use incense. We don't use that other stuff. We don't use a Mongol. We don't go the full way. So if it is a man, he either takes off or lets down his trousers and also stands over the said smoke. This is so weird. Only after... It's so weird because it's like, yeah, he's making some of this up, but you know there's some weird customs like this going on somewhere in the world. If after learning about what cargo cults are, I wouldn't be surprised. Make up a silly custom, and it's probably happened at one point in history. Only after such a purification can they enter the chief room. Otherwise, as they affirm, not only will evil influences be brought into the house, but owing to these accumulated influence, a man might contract a very evil disease. Okay, so you gotta purify your junk because that's how the evil gets in. These sacred Mongols are usually screened by the very best Jed gyms. That is, by a special fabric woven only by the Kurds. Okay. So they're also screened and closed off in a special fabric. Jedjim is an interesting word, because Jed is Egyptian for real. And he just slaps Jim on the end. The Jed is the sacred pillar in Egypt. The Jed pillar. I guess maybe he's using the term here to show how sacred, on the level this fabric is that's hanging. Interesting. I repeat, my boy, there exists at the present time, on that continent Asia, as a great many similar customs. I personally saw hundreds of them, which seemed at first sight no less strange and barbarous, but upon a serious and impartial study of their hidden meaning, always revealed one and the same aim, namely either the destruction of the noxious carriers of various diseases, or the strengthening of moral shame. God damn. Yeah, I agree, Ollie. A lot of these things sound like there was a real magic practice that had like some real esoteric knowledge, and then it just degraded over time and people didn't know what was up, and then it just slowly got weirder and weirder. That's what it kind of sounds like. But on the continent of Europe, I scarcely found a single custom specially created either for purposes of hygiene or for instilling morality among the masses. So it's interesting. So even though these guys do silly things, at least they're into the hygiene, whereas in Europe, we're just stinky boys. Stinky boys. You know, like, how, like, racists will always be like, you know, Indians, they smell like curry, or, you know, Asians always smell like rice. Did you know, like, the equivalent of that for, like, white people? Apparently other races say white people smell like cows, funnily enough. Because apparently it's, I don't know if this is a thing, but, like, if you think about milk, apparently we have a lot of milk in our diet, just an oddly large amount. Like, yeah, we all have cereal in the morning, covered in milk, drink glasses of milk. Milk's a main ingredient, so apparently we smell like cows to other races. I just found that fascinating when I heard that. I was like, oh my god, that's the white people thing. Whoa. What's that, Ollie? Suffocation of the lowest chakra to cleanse any imbalanced, animalistic, before coming to the sacred chief. Consider the cloth around it holy, of holy vibes. Yeah. Agreed. Heavy cream and coffee, exactly, Tyler, exactly. It's all about that milk and butter, and I mean, yeah, butter, yogurts. Think about how much of that we have in our diet. So apparently white people smell like cows. Lamau. The sacred cows. Yes, continuing on. It cannot be denied that various customs also exist on the continent of Europe, even thousands of them, but they are all established only in order that beings may have the possibility of pleasing each other, or to conceal the real state of affairs, that is to say, to disguise the undesirable forms of one's exterior. Undesirable, of course, only according to the subjective understanding, and to conceal the nullity of one's own inner significance. And that's a Hasnamusian trait. It's like you want to be something other than you are, and so you conceal your inner significance by pumping up the things around you. Oh, Joseph Graham says, wet dog is what I've heard before. Yeah, that's also true as well, because, like, you know, we've got pretty big dog culture. We got that dog in us. White people smell like wet dogs or cows. Yeah, I can see it. These customs existing there progressively increase year by year the duality of the personality and mind of the beings there. What's that? These customs existing there progressively increase. Oh yeah, the duality. Okay, so it just increases the divide of the conscious subconsciousness and how we just become more and more asleep to this. That's basically what our education and customs do. Oh, Nick D. Yeah, Japanese girls said we smell like butter. Damn, you got some Japanese girls, Nick? It's interesting, though, because, like, if someone said I smell like milk, I would take that as, like, a compliment. Wet dog sounds like more, like, that's why I believe the wet dog one more. But the principal evil lies in this, that at the present time there, all of the... Okay, let's go. Oskian Otsnell. Yeah, okay. I got that in one. Oskian Otsnell of the rising generation, or the education of the children. Hey, there you go. That's what that is. Is rendered and reduced only to the adoption of these innumerable customs which exist among them and engender only immorality. I wonder what Gurdjieff would have thought about Elvis and the rock and roll revolution. Hence it is that year by year the data crystallized in them by tens of centuries for the being of an image of God, and not simply, as they themselves would say, of an animal, are on the one hand decrystallized, and on the other hand their psyche is already becoming almost such as our dear teacher defines by the words dear teacher, so I guess that's a Mullah Nasruddin thing. There is everything in him except himself. Hey, that's a great line. So people, they're empty and they fill themselves with junk, fill themselves with anything they can except truth. And indeed, my boy, owing to the complete absence of good patriarchal customs, men, and to their notorious education, the contemporary beings of that continent have already become completely transformed into what are called automatons, or living mechanical puppets. Oof. Yep, Gurdjieff saw it. Gurdjieff saw it. It's interesting, good patriarchal customs. R.I.P. Gurdjieff would have loved Jordan Peterson. At the present time, any one of them can become animated and manifested himself outwardly, only when there are accidentally pressed the corresponding what are called buttons of those impressions already present in him, which he mechanically perceived during the whole of his preparatory age. Yes. So as automatons, the idea is you can pretty much, you know, like a computer, you put in a certain input, you get a certain output. If you go onto the street right now and just walk up to someone and be like, I hate your shirt, you suck, you can predict pretty accurately what the output of your input's gonna be. But the fact that you can predict that is telling. So if you can predict what someone's gonna say, that's that shows that there's too many automatons around. And the fact that you can do this, you know, and you criticize society, but what about us? Think about that for yourself. How easy would it be to manipulate you? What inputs do other people put in that they know? They know they can get the same thing out of you, you dirty little automaton. You're just a dirty little automaton, aren't you? By the way, I accept donations. Donate right now in chat. Anyway, just kidding. But unless these buttons are pressed, the beings there are in themselves only as, again, our highly esteemed Mullah Nasruddin says, pieces of pressed meat. Oh, that's funny. It must without fail be remarked here that one of the principal causes of this state of the beings of contemporary civilization is also that same onanism of theirs. Okay, hold on. Yeah. It's funny because if you think, sorry, to go back to that automaton thing, it's funny if you think about like Zen koans, they're so weird, but you can't predict what comes next. It's like, the student asks, Master, how does one become enlightened? And then the master is just like, the butthole is wet when you wipe towards the east or something, and you're like, what the hell? It's, you know, Zen masters definitely ain't automatons. They are free men. Oh god. But oh, hello. Impression received, automatic output engaged, bleep bloop. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you for the donation. I guess that means if you were all truly free, you wouldn't donate? Oh shit, I've screwed myself over now. Only free men are allowed to donate. Yes. Yes, if you donate now, that means you're free. Anyway. Yeah, so onanism. By the way, everyone, onanism means you're straight up jorking it. And by it, I mean, you know, a disease. I love how he calls it a disease as well, which in recent times has come to them to be almost epidemic there. Oh, it is. It's not just epidemic nowadays, Gurdjieff. It's pandemic. We just got young people jorking it all the time. We invented, there should be a holiday for No Nut November. Like, that's like white people Ramadan. This November, you just don't fap. R.I.P. Gurdjieff would have loved No Nut November. Which is, in its turn, also a consequence, again, of their education of children, thanks to a certain maleficent idea established among its rulers, and which is already, as it were, an inseparable part of the consciousness of everybody, namely their maleficent idea to speak to children about the sex question is absolutely improper. I remember someone claiming once that he had kind of he said it was an esoteric experience, and I'm like, you know, what did that mean, bro? You just thought real hard on the toilet and pushed an extra bit and you had enlightenment? But he said he had like an esoteric experience that you shouldn't talk about sex with kids before the age of 12, like 12 was the cut-up point, but I'm like, read that in a psychological magazine, bro. Why did you need to preface that with you had an esoteric experience? But basically, yeah, that idea of let kids be kids, bro. They got enough on their hands already, man. They got sandpit dramas going on. They don't need to know what you do behind closed doors. And it also just kind of ruins things. It's like, you know, kids can just be like, have fun and play, but then with all like the weird sexual politics, it just kind of, you just ruin everything, dog. Ruins everything. Didn't Eastern Tantric School teach kids very early? Dunno. Dunno. I mean, in some ways, they didn't teach them at all. There's the, I remember, what is it in Chinese? There's this whole thing in, not Chinese Tantra, the Chinese Taoist kind of, what is it, bridegroom bedding literature. There's a whole bunch of it that you can mistake as tantric, but what a whole bunch of it is apparently for the higher classes, you know, 12-year-old girl, 13-year-old girl would be married off to like some 40-year-old guy. But the way you're raised in the higher classes in ancient China is only women around. So you've never seen a male. You don't even know what a man looks like. And you just get married off to a guy, put in you don't see him, you just get put in a room, a bedroom, and it's like your husband's going to come and make love to you, and you're like, what? And apparently the older woman would slip a manual under the pillow so that the girl, the 13-year-old girl, could like get it and read it and be like, oh, this is what's going to happen. What? Like that's, and there's a whole bunch of manuals like that, but they're not tantric manuals. It's just instructional. Like, young girl, this is what's up. Like, could you imagine? But yeah, I mean, I think, what is it? Improper to speak to young kids. I guess in that case it's when the girls bleed, which is still kind of like, ugh. If she can read, she can bleed, which is a really dark saying. But yeah, for boys, I don't know, boys just get weird. Just let them be innocent for a little longer. I mean, it's hard, you know, if they find out, they just kind of become weird anyway, but I mean, maybe I'm just idealizing it all. I just want to go back to innocence. Anyway, and further, let's see what he says about it. Let's see what Gurdjieff says about it. And further, I again emphasize that just this, for their naive reason, trifling idea, the significance of which none of them takes into consideration, considering it simply as what they call a question of decency or indecency, is the chief cause of their having come to this phenomenal, so to say, psychic mechanicality. There was such a better way to describe that, bro. What is even this word, mechanicality? Ugh. T-Rex says probably would discover jorking it before 12. I mean, you know, kids do. I know one guy, just was jorking it randomly at 6, but apparently he was just bored and like had no one to play with, so only child. Parents kind of just kept him at home, closed off, so he was just like, jork. But I mean, that's still the parents' fault. This is the whole thing, and the whole kind of thing behind this. Like, you know, maybe tantric schools did teach kids very early. The whole reason why Gurdjieff says not to tell kids isn't because, like, it's a moralism and Jesus Christ. The reason why is you don't want people jorking it because your vril, your hydrogen C12, is your sexual substance. So if you're continuously jorking it, your C12 can never crystallize into a higher being body and you're kind of screwing yourself. That's what he has an exception with. That's why he says not to do it. In the totality of definite understandings, which they call education, in inverted commas, there is even a certain section which elucidates and exactly indicates just what is, as they express it, decent and what is indecent. Oh yeah, sorry, I just read that, didn't I? You must know that at the end of my last sojourn on the surface of your planet, I had to make the maleficent terrestrial question. This maleficent terrestrial question, the subject of my special observation, and even to study it in great detail. What's wrong with the kids? To know approximately what results the terrestrial contemporary education of children leads to. R.I.P. Gurdjieff would have loved Jean Piaget. I will tell you of just that one occurrence, which was the first cause of my subsequent special interest in the question of this terrestrial misunderstanding. Although this occurrence took place in the large community of Russia, yet nevertheless this story, which I shall now tell you, is very characteristic and gives you a very good picture in general of the education of the children of their contemporary civilization. Okay, so now we're going to have Gurdjieff dunking on the education system, which is great because I hate the education system. It's personal. It is characteristic because in this large community, Russia, also the contemporary responsible beings, especially the beings of what is called the upper ruling class, educate their children exactly as the contemporary responsible beings of the other communities breeding on the continents of Europe and America educate theirs. My account of this occurrence, which evoked in me an impulse of interest to acquaint myself, specially with the question of the terrestrial education of children, I shall preface with a story of something that occurred just previously to this, and which admirably illustrates the significance of this education of theirs, and was also, so to say, a link in my gradually becoming interested in this question. So he's going to tell us of a time when he saw some whack stuff. I happened once to exist continuously for several months in the capital of this community, in the city of St. Petersburg. I bet you did. During my stay there, I became acquainted with an elderly couple. The man was what is called a senator, and his wife was a society lady and a patroness of several welfare institutions. I used to visit them often at their home and enjoyed playing chess with this senator. I wonder how good Gurdjieff was at chess. As is customary there among what are called respectable people, this elderly couple had several daughters. All the elder daughters were already settled, that is, married. Only their youngest daughter, 12 years old, remained at home. Okay, hold up. Eldest. What was that? All the elder daughters were already settled, that is. So, okay. Sorry. So they had a bunch of kids. They had several daughters, but all of them were married. And so there was just the youngest at home, and she was 12. Oh, this is going to be like a weird masturbation thing? Ew. Let's see what goes on. Let's see where he goes. See where he goes. Bruh. Gurdjieff would have loved the Japanese. And this couple had no further responsibilities concerning their own daughter. They decided to give this youngest daughter of theirs the very best education according to the notions of that time. And for this purpose, they placed her in a special boarding school. Uh-oh. She came out a lesbian, didn't she? A higher educational establishment called an institute. This younger daughter of theirs came home only on Sundays and for the chief holidays, and once a week on special days her father and mother used to visit her at the boarding school. I was almost always with them during the holidays, and I met this charming and yet unspoiled girl, and sometimes even took walks with her in the neighboring what is called park. I wonder if this is true, and like if Gurdjieff just loaded her up with esoteric knowledge, and there's just some random old like Russian lady out there still who like remembers Gurdjieff. We used to go on walks in the park, and he'd tell me about the laws of the universe. During these walks, we either joked or she told me about her lessons and her new impressions. During these meetings and conversations, a tie, something like friendship, grew up little by little between us. She was very quick in her perceptions and manifestations. I feel like this is one of the... She was an old soul. God, I hope this isn't going where I think it is. Or as your favorites themselves define such persons, from among themselves, an alert and thoughtful girl. My acquaintance, this senator, was sent on a certain, as they say there, inspection, somewhere far off in Siberia. His wife decided to accompany him, for the senator was suffering from what is called liver trouble, and constantly needed care. But they could not make this joint trip, because of their youngest daughter, since there would be no one to visit her at the institute to take her home during the holidays, So one morning, the parents, these elderly acquaintances of mine, came to see me at my apartment and asked if I would agree to take their place with their youngest daughter during their absence, to visit her every week at the institute and to take her home with me for the holidays. I, of course, at once agreed to this proposal of theirs. And when very soon after the senator and his wife... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm same to your ex. Let's see where he goes. The senator... let's just hope he hasn't read, like... did Lolita come out before Gurdjieff died? When was the publication of Lolita? Hold up. (1955). Okay, so Gurdjieff was dead already before that book came out, so this can't be a reference. So maybe we're in the clear. Let's see where this goes. After the senator and his wife left for Siberia, I began punctually to fulfill the obligations taken upon myself in regard to their daughter, who had by that time become a pet of mine. Oh, you've been a very good kitten. Good lord. I mean, that's more of like a bad choice of words, because in modern time we've just ruined that. We've ruined this phrasing. Upon my first visit to this educational establishment, which existed specially for the education of children... Sorry, I just read Tyler's message. Not like this. Not like this. I noticed a certain strange thing. So maybe he's going to notice the other girls are strange. A strange thing which also served as one of the causes of my subsequent observations and studies of the consequences on your contemporary favourites of that maleficence invented by them themselves. On the day of my visit to this, as they call it, genteel institution. So it wasn't a school for wayward girls. Well, it wasn't a school for wayward girls. This isn't going to be some weird thing. There were many visitors in the reception room, where the meetings of the parents or guardians with their children or wards actually took place. One or two parents or guardians had only just come in. Others were already talking with their children or foster children. Others were awaiting the arrival of their children, and all their attention was fixed on the door, through which the pupils of that establishment usually entered. I also, after I had come into this reception room and had explained to the inspectress on duty who it was I wished to see, sat down to wait for my chance foster child. While waiting, I looked around. So, okay, maybe he's just going to see something weird. All the pupils of this genteel establishment were dressed alike, and all wore their hair similarly braided in two braids. Something to hang on to, the end of which, tied with ribbons, oh, this is nice, okay, this is nice, hung down their backs. This is very specific, but this is nice, okay. What struck my eye was a certain peculiarity in these ribbons and braids. On some of the pupils, these ribbons simply hung down the back, but on the others, although they also hung down the back, yet the ends of the ribbon were tied longer in a certain way. Bro, is he, like, noticing the calling sign of, like, some, you know, like, pedophile underground? Like, they tie their girls' hair bows in, like, a particular way to, like, as a sign so other people know, like, you can buy this girl or something? Bro, Gurdjieff was into, like, R.I.P. Gurdjieff would have loved QAnon satanic pedophile theories. On the very next holiday, when I took my foster child home, talking with her, over what is called a samovar, I asked her, "Tell me, Sonia, please," that's a very Russian name, Sonia, "why, although the pupils of your institute dress alike in everything else, there is that peculiarity in the ends of their braids?" She immediately blushed, and without answering this question of mine, stared pensively into her tea, and only after a certain time nervously replied, "It's not a single thing among us. Although this is our big institute secret, yet I cannot help telling you, my friend, as I am quite sure you will not give away this big institute secret of ours to anybody. Bro, is this how the institute made money on the side? Bro. She proceeded to tell me frankly as follows. The manner of tying our ribbons was intentionally devised by the pupils so that they could recognize one another. That is, know to which club a pupil belongs. And at the same time, so that the class teachers and supervisors, and in general anyone not a pupil of the institute, should not know or discover the secret. And what are the clubs, virgin and non-virgin? So that none of the class teachers and supervisors knew what was going on. All the pupils of our institute are divided into two categories. One belongs to what is called the men's club, and lesbians, and the other to what is called the women's club, and we recognize one another just by the manner of tying these ribbons. After this, she explained to me in detail in just what the difference between these two clubs lies. She said that, as a rule, all new arrivals to the institute sorry, T-Rex, you made me laugh. I don't know why. T-Rex just wrote, "Oh glob," and I don't know why I found that funny. I think I'd like read it in a British accent. Oh glob. Anyway, sorry, but we're getting to the bottom of this. She said that, as a rule, all the new arrivals in the institute were at first members of the women's club, and only afterwards, if any pupil proved to be daring toward the teachers or in general showed herself very active in some way or other, they, by the common consent of all the pupils, she was enrolled as a member of the men's club, and from that moment tied the ends of the ribbons of her two braids together. So it seems like you know, if one of the girls gets a little hanky-panky in some way with the man, then she does her bows differently. Okay, this just sounds like a weird kind of thing. We usually make the meeting place of our club a spare classroom or dormitory, but more often the toilets, of course. The toilets are a sacred space for the girls, where they meet and commune. The members of the men club have in general the following privileges. They have the right to choose and to command as many as they like and whom they please of the pupils who are members of the women's club. This sounds like such a freaking girl thing to do as well. It's like, you're not a part of our club. Like, this... this almost sounds real. This sounds real. And these latter are obliged always to gratify every wish of the given member of the men's club and do their utmost to make her stay in our boarding school easy for her, as for example, to make her bed in the morning, copy her lessons, share with her the presents sent from home, and so on and so forth. The chief occupation in the clubs consists of reading together forbidden books procured by one of the pupils. They chiefly read one very rare manuscript obtained with money raised by a general institute subscription, wherein is expounded in detail the whole of the teachings of the famous poetess Sappho, which, if you guys don't know, Sappho, the original lesbian. I must tell you, my boy, well, they say, the thing that they say about Sappho, they say Sappho loved young girls as much as Socrates loved young boys. That Sappho was the name of a certain Greek poetess who first discovered there on your planet the way to real happiness for many women of the Greek, Roman, as well as the contemporary civilization. This great creator of woman's happiness had her dwelling place on the island of Lesbos, from which word originated the title of those women who had already become worthy to understand and to actualize during the process of their existence the teaching of this remarkable woman, and who at the present time are called lesbians. This foster child of mine, who had chanced to become my enlightener upon the subtleties of the psyche of the beings of the female sex of our planet, further explained to me that every pupil of the institute who was a member of the men's club could choose for herself as many partners as she wished for the common pastime, this of course proceeding in full accordance with the teachings of the poetess Sappho. So it was basically a lesbian dom cult in a girls' boarding school. That's crazy. Fine Free Fine in the chat. I just woke up from a dream of picking up iridescent ice blocks in the alleyway for my co-worker who just got plastic surgery. That sounds pretty crazy, but is it crazier than a domination lesbian cult in an all-girls school? This is some crazy fanfic. I did not expect to find a lesbian domination cult in an esoteric Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson sci-fi. This is great. This is weird, bro. This is weird. I think that thanks this is very hentai overtones. This is how Yuri was born. Oh, Fine Free, I liked your new video. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Fine Free. Is that the Rosicrucian one? Anyway. I think that thanks merely to this one fact, which I have related to you out of thousands of other observations of mine, you can already clearly picture to yourself that such a phenomenal ugliness could not exist among the rising generation if the notion was not prevalent there that it is exceedingly indecent to talk to children about the sex question. The notion of decency came down to contemporary civilization by inheritance from beings of the epoch called the Middle Ages. The candidates for Hasnamuses of the Middle Ages having been among the chief agents in the destruction of the real meaning of the teaching of the divine teacher Jesus Christ. So Christianity has been tampered with, and Hasnamusian black magicians in the Middle Ages tampered with his teachings and ruined everything. Quote, Gurdjieff. Then also devised and introduced into every existence a regulation, the maleficent invention which they called Bonton. What's Bonton? And this maleficent invention then became so fixed in the psyche of the majority that it became organized for them and began to pass by heredity from generation to generation, so that now your contemporary favorites, who have become completely weak-willed, are unable, however they may try, to overcome such an abnormal psychic fixation as, in the given case, the notion of the indelicacy of talking to their children about the sex question. What? Talk to one's children about sex? Is that not indecent? So that's very interesting. So it's one of those things, it's like, what do you do? Do you overdo it or underdo it? How do you talk to kids about the sex? You got to kind of give them some proper knowledge so that they don't waste their vril, but at the same time, if you give them too much, they just become weird and perverse. Oh, thank you, Tyler. Bonton is 1, a fashionable manner or style, or B, a fashionable or proper thing. So that's the term. At the present time, the people of contemporary civilization talk to their children and teach them for their edification. Only what has been invented or is being invented in the manuals of various candidates for Hasnamus individuals under the aforesaid title of Bonton, yeah. So the fashionable and proper thing to do is usually, in our contemporary time, it's one of those things that's like, what does it mean to be a traditionalist? To go back to 1940s? To go back to medieval times? Well, those times were already corrupted and degenerate, according to Gurdjieff. To a real capital T traditionalist, you need to go back prehistory, because even writing things down is a sign of degeneracy, technically. And since in all these manuals it seems that it is very indecent to talk about the sex question, and in case of children even immoral, that even if contemporary people see their favorite son or daughter rotting, they simply cannot, and even, as I have already told you, with all their mental wish, dare not explain frankly to their children the harm and sin of these criminal habits. Nowadays we just learn it, the kids just learn it through hentai. And so, my boy, when my good acquaintances, the senator and his wife, had returned from Siberia, and I was free of obligations I had taken upon myself in regard to my pet. Such bad phrasing. Their youngest daughter. There just then occurred the aforementioned event which served as the beginning of my special observations and studies of this terrestrial contemporary question, Maleficent, also to themselves. Also, it should be noted, there's something hidden in here. Those girls were using secret code which no one noticed. Their teachers didn't notice it, the staff didn't notice it, the principal didn't notice it, general visitors didn't notice it, their parents didn't notice it. Who noticed? Gurdjieff noticed. Gurdjieff noticed something that was off about all the kids in that school, and he picked it that it was specifically, they were speaking in code through tying of ribbons. That's actually a kind of a Giga Chad move, not gonna lie. This sorrowful event occurred there in St. Petersburg itself, in just such another educational institution, and consisted in the following. The headmistress of this institution, finding that one of her pupils had behaved contrary to their famous regulations of decency, reprimanded her so harshly and so unfairly that as a result, the accused, and her friend, two growing girls with the germs of data for future normal woman mother, hangs themselves. Ooh. Okay, that's not based. My investigations into this case elicited the following. It appears that among the pupils of the mentioned educational institution was a certain young girl, Elizabeth, who had been brought by her parents from a distant estate to the capital in order that there, in a special higher educational institution, she might receive the same contemporary education. Here in St. Petersburg, in this said boarding school, it happened that this 13-year-old, Elizabeth, became great friends with another girl, Mary. What are you doing? Her, like herself, was not yet developed. The same year, on the day of the spring holiday, or as it is otherwise called there, May Day, all the pupils of that higher educational institution were taken according to custom, the local custom, for an excursion into the country, and these two bosom friends, I bet they were bosom friends, happened to be in different groups which were walking at some distance from each other. Out in the fields, Elizabeth chanced to see a certain quadruped animal called there a bull, and very much wishing for some reason or other that her bosom friend, Mary, should not miss seeing this dear quadruped animal, she shouted, "Mary, Mary, look, there goes a bull." No sooner had she uttered the word bull, than all the, as they are called, governesses swarmed round this Elizabeth and flung all kinds of cruel preachings. How could one utter the word bull? Man, they really didn't like cucking, hey. Does not that quadruped animal occupy itself with what no well-brought-up person would on any account speak of, and still less a pupil of such genteel institution? So I guess the undertone here is that bull was hanging, and there was some, it was in the heat, and she was just like, "Good Lord, Mary, Mary." And the governesses were like, "Don't look at it, don't even say anything." So while the governesses were persecuting this poor Elizabeth, all the pupils of the institute gathered around the headmistresses herself came up, who, having learned what it was all about, began in her turn to reproach Elizabeth. "Shame on you," she said, "to utter such a word which is considered so very, very indecent." Bro, come on, man. I mean, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? I remember back when I was in school, I got told off for saying damn. Like nowadays, you see kids in school just flinging the F-bomb, like calling each other retards, and the teachers are just like, "Yeah, whatever, I'm not paid enough to deal with this." I remember back in one day, it was like, computers had first came in, and I walked up to a computer, and, I didn't know all computers had passwords, so I looked at it, and it said login password, and I was like, oh, damn, the computer's got a password. And the teacher in the room I was in got up and was like, "Who said a swear word? Who said it?" And I got, put in timeout for saying damn. I was, 11 years old, and I was like, "Oh, man, what? Come on, man, damn's not even a swear word." That happened when I was a kid, so imagine back then just pointing out a bull. gets you in this much trouble, bruh. Bruh. Yeah, exactly. She didn't want her friend to miss what the big deal was. So I'm just reading Fine's comment there. I mean, it still shows a level. So Fine Free says, you know, the fact that sexy games happen in controlling girls' schools is no surprise to me. It must have been quite plain and obvious to Beelzebub. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It would have been obvious to him. But not to everyone else, and that's the thing that's interesting. Is when someone can see something that others don't. That's a good sign that they got vision. So at last Elizabeth could contain herself no longer, and she asked amid her tears, "What then ought I have called the quadruped animal if it actually was a bull?" "The word," said the headmistress, "by which you call that animal. Any of the scum call it, but you, since you are here in the Institute, are not of the scum, so you should always find out how to call indecent things by names which do not sound indecent to the ear." So it wasn't even like... So my thought was that the bull was like in the heat or something, and they just didn't want to talk about it. But it's just straight up that she used a common word and not the proper word. She should have been like, "Oh, Mary, look at that masculine bovine specimen," or something. Rip R.I.P. Gurdjieff would have loved Picnic at Hanging Rock. What's that, T-Rex? What's Picnic at Hanging Rock? Someone explain it to me. Is that actually Picnic at Hanging Rock, is that a William S. Burroughs book or something? Anyway. For instance, when you saw the indecent animal and wanted your friend to look at it, you might have shouted, "Mary, look! There goes a beefsteak," or "Mary, look! Yonder, there goes something that is very good to eat when we are hungry," and so forth. This just seems like they're messing up Elizabeth. It's an Australian movie and a book. Oh. Those Australians, bruh. What's it about? What's it about? Oh, it's an all-girls school movie. Okay. Is it all-girls school in this vein that we're talking about? Peter Veer directed. You should check it out. Dare I type it into Google? What's the rating? Whoa. What's the rating of the movie? Is it R? Or is it just like a PG? If it's PG, I'll like look it up. It's Kino, huh? That's its rating? K for Kino? Bruh. Okay. But anyway, we're going back to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth getting messed up. Yeah, it's 18, huh? 18 plus. Bruh. I ain't typing that in. So from all this, poor Elizabeth became so nervous, especially as this reprimanding took place in the presence of all her friends, that she could not restrain herself and cried out with all her might, "Oh, you wretched old maids, striped hobgoblins, spawn of deepest hell..." Elizabeth definitely did not say this, but this is based and hilarious. "You hobgoblins." Oh, it's not horror or prawn. Okay. 7.4 in IMDb. Everyone's still going off about this movie. Picnic, what is it? Picnic at Hanging Rock. Why is it R then? Does someone die? Is it just sad? One of those sad R-rated movies? Or it's like, you know how like R-rated movies, it's like violence, sexual themes, and there's sometimes it's an R-rated movie, but it just says adult themes, and you're like, this is gonna be depressing, isn't it? It's a mystery movie. Oh, goddamn, you guys are making this movie sound good. Bruh. Let's see what's up. Let's see what's up. Picnic at Hanging Rock. 1975. Okay. Okay. Still dazzling. 50 years on. Oh my god. 1975 was 50 years ago. Holy, oh my god. Peter Veer. What did Peter Veer also do? Teen drama. Tragedy. You guys said it wasn't sad. You lied to me. Coming of age. It's a coming of age tragedy. Okay, it is mystery as well, but I don't do sad movies. I only do good vibes. Unless it's like really fire, then I'll watch it. What the hell is going on here? Lesbian tragedy. What did Peter also do? Oh, he also did Gallipoli. That was also kind of depressed. Espresso Depress. Oh, he did The Truman Show? Okay. Yeah, okay. And Dead Poets Society. Damn. Damn. Okay. Nah, you got me. This does... Okay, maybe I do have to watch this movie. Damn. Picnic at Hang Rock. They did a remake? With what's-her-face? It's on Amazon Prime. Disgusting. I refuse to give Bezos money. Although this, I don't know, looks good. Looks good. Not as good as the OJ, apparently. Mysterious Disappearances. Oh, wait, what's the original one? During a rural summer picnic, a few students and a teacher from Australian girls' school vanish without a trace. Their absence frustrates and haunts people left behind. Okay. Interesting. Damn. I guess that's what... Okay, maybe. It's PG Bros capping. Wait, what is the rating? Oh yeah, it is PG. What the hell? Bruh. Nick, you liar. PG meant something different back in the day, says Jill. Yeah, probably too. R.I.P. Gurdjieff would have loved picking... Okay, so maybe I will check that out. Maybe I will. Damn, Peter Veer. Peter Veer, yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll check it. I make no promises. I've got no time to myself, not gonna lie, but, I'll put it on the list of all the other movies I still haven't watched. You know, I made that, Neon Genesis video ages ago, and I was like, I can't wait till the 4th one comes out, and it's been out for, like, years now, and I haven't gotten around to watching it. I just don't have time. I have no time. Prime of Miss Jean Brodie is another Good Girls School movie. Good Girls School movie. What is this like? Oh, who's in it as well? Who are the actresses? Rachel Roberts, Amy Louise Adam, Vivian Grey, Helen Morse. These all seem like decent actresses. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of there. Go back to Gurdjieff. So anyway, Elizabeth was calling her teachers hobgoblins, which is based. Because I called a thing by its name, you immediately began to suck my blood. Be thrice damned. Nice. That's a great paragraph. I wish schoolgirls still talked like this. Having said these last words, she fell, as they say there, in a faint, followed in turn by the fainting of the headmistress herself, and of several class mistresses and governesses. Damn. And the mistresses and the governesses of this genteel institution, who had not fainted, then raised such a hubbub, as really only occurs what is called the market, where Jewesses from the town of Berdichev exclusively bargain. Lol. I guess Jewesses are loud. I mean, I've seen Bette Midler movies. I know they're loud, but they don't. They raised a hubbub, eh? Bills are based, says Nick D in the chat. Yes, this is bills are based. This paragraph right here, bills are based. Faints. And the result of it all was that when the class mistresses and governesses who had fainted revived, they had they're held in the field under the presidency of this same mistress of the institution, what is there called Teachers' Council, by whose sentence it was decided immediately on return to town to telegraph Elizabeth's father to come for his daughter, as she was expelled from the institute, with loss of right to enter any other similar institute in the Russian Empire. Ah, what a bunch of bitches. Peace out. I've got to do homework, says T-Rex. See ya. See ya, T-Rex. See y'all next time. You can always catch the vlog later, I guess. We're 50 minutes in. Oof. We've like made no time. Made no tracks. The same day, an hour after the pupils were sent home, one of what are called the porters of the institute happened to find in the woodshed that two as yet undeveloped growing future mothers were hanging by ropes fastened to the beams. Oh my god. In Mary's pocket was found the note with the contents. Together with my dear Elizabeth, I do not wish to live any longer with such non-entities as you, and I am going with her to a better world. I mean, suicide's not based. I can give you 13 reasons why, but the letter is based. That's like 14 pages left. Let's go. Let's go. Or maybe we should just call it. No. I don't want to stretch this out further than I have to. But that's always like, if you are gonna unalive yourself, you always name and shame in a letter. Name and shame. You will be mentioned by name in my letter. This case then so interested me that I began, of course privately, to investigate psychoanalytically from every aspect the psyche of all the parties of this sad story. I partly elucidated, among other things, that at the moment of the manifestation of her violent outburst, there was in the psyche of poor Elizabeth what is called their chaos. I mean, all women have chaos in their psyche at all times. What are you talking about, Gurdjieff? And indeed, it would have been astonishing if such a chaos had not been in the psyche of this, as yet, unself-conscious 13-year-old girl, who, before this miserable event, had always lived on her father's big estate, where she had always seen and felt the same richness of nature as on the day in the fields near the city of St. Petersburg. She had been brought to the stifling, noisy city of St. Petersburg and had been kept for a long time in an impoverished box. Suddenly, she found herself in an environment where every fresh impression evoked all kinds of memories of former pleasantly perceived sensations. As your planet during what is called early spring, there are indeed sometimes pictures to the charm of which is difficult not to yield. Picture to yourself the following. Afar, cows are seen at pasture. Near at one's feet, snowdrops shyly peep out from the earth close to one's ear. Little bird flies by to the right. Is heard the twittering of quite an unknown bird. On the left, one's sense of smell is quickened by the perfume of some also unknown flower. In short, at such moments as these, in the beings there, especially in one so young as Elizabeth, finding themselves after a long period of oppressive existence, in a suffocating city in the midst of such a rich abundance of all kinds of unaccustomed impressions, the mental associations evoked from a natural being joy would naturally arise of themselves from every external thing perceived. Elizabeth must have felt this especially strongly, having lived, as I have already said, before the Institute on her father's large estate, which lay far from the already exceedingly abnormal conditions of city vanities. Poor Elizabeth, poor Elizabeth. Thanks to this, every impression newly perceived by her would naturally call up previous childhood memories, which connected in its turn with various other pleasant incidents. So this is one law of impressions. Impressions come in at all times through your senses, smells, images, sounds, and every impression that comes in has a counter impression coming up, because the impression that comes in, there's an automated system within you that judges perceptions, whether they're good or bad. You smell a rose, there's something in you that's automated that goes, it's good, you like this smell, or bad, oh, you don't like roses. And so it goes good, bad. And then it clumps that impression with other previous impressions. And this is the thing, depending on how you take certain impressions in can also tint that process. So you can have a favorite song that you really like, but say you're arguing with your partner while the song is playing on in the background, those two things are happening at the same time. That clumps together as one impression. So then after that, whenever you hear that song, what arises in you is memories of you arguing with your ex, and it destroys that song for you. Like, ugh, you can't stand it after that. It's like, then you hate it. There's an automated no, this is a bad song after that. But there's interesting, these processes And the whole thing is there's a store of impressions within you that are, to a degree, what do you call them, untransformed, but fundamentally they're locked away in your memory, and they can be evoked via a like nature. So my example I really like using for most people, sometimes you walk down the street and then you feel, this example is, you may feel sad, but you don't know why you felt sad. However, if you were self-observing and you were walking down the street, you would notice you would hear something, you're hearing a parent yell at their child, in a house for some reason. And you don't know what the story is. You don't know what the child did, but the parent's yelling at a kid and you can hear a kid crying. And that impression comes into you, and within you, a memory arises of your parents yelling at you as a kid, and you just kind of feel like, like I hate my dad or something. But if you're not conscious of that process, for most people, they just walk down the street and then they just start feeling an emotion and they don't know why. It's just there, present in them. And a lot of people kind of live like this. Things will come in, input will come in, and then associations, automatic arisings will happen and will tint their, what do you call it? I don't even want to say consciousness, because there's not even anything, it's not them there. It's a desire, it's an intellectual ideology. It's a motor impulse that just presents itself and starts working their body and moving. There's no real solid thing there, or them as they are not present in and of themselves. So anyway, I just went off on a tangent there, but he's getting into some nitty-gritty here. It's really interesting. Really interesting to get back into some nitty-gritty after quite a long time in Beelzebub's Tales. So, it is not difficult to picture to yourself that the sudden appearance of that quadruped animal called Bull, such as she had seen at home on the farm, and which had enjoyed there the affection of all the children, who secretly even took bread from the table, was to this as yet uninformed impressionable young girl a shock for the corresponding associations, under the influence of which, she being full of feeling of sincere happiness, still unspoiled by the abnormally established conditions of being existence, instantly, and that's just it, kids are unspoiled by the abnormally established conditions of being existence. That's why kids are naturally happy. The only time you feel happy the same way a kid does is when you've made some progress in meditation and a feeling arises. Sometimes they call it meditative bliss, but there's almost a nostalgia to it, an aspect of nostalgia to it. It's like, I like to say, when you meditate for really long hours, sometimes this sensation arises within you, and it feels like a memory you had when you were a kid, but it's not a memory. It's just like this weird feeling. And you could say this is, this is like I wouldn't say samadhi, but like say there's a boundary and it's like a membrane, and it's like you're kind of just touching the membrane of samadhi, and this bliss is kind of released from this. And it's a good feeling. But it's not a feeling, it's not an emotion, it's like this weird state. And it's not dependent, it's not dependent on anything that you haven't been given something and it's like, oh, now I'm happy. You haven't something's been taken from you. It's like, oh, I hate this person. Oh, he's gone now. Now I'm happy. It's not dependent on anything. It's just you've negated, you're meditating, and then this thing kind of arises. And it's like, oh, and it reminds you of something when you're a kid, but you can't quite remember it. But it's not that there was even a memory there for you to remember it. And the reason why you kind of describe it as a nostalgic thing is because it comes back to that point. But yeah, or it's this state of just kind of being natural before being spoiled by the abnormally established conditions of being existence as an adult. So poor Elizabeth was feeling some of that. Oh, Kimberly, I'm pregnant. Emotions come from nowhere. Well, they come from somewhere, Kimberly. They come from somewhere. Another guy says, Richard Dunn made the old videos members only. Not all of them. There was a couple where I'm just like, these are cringe. And I just kind of, I was going to unlist them. Then I was like, I'll just make them members only. Really? they're quite good. I really don't think they're good. That's why I was gonna unlist them. Because a lot of those old videos I kind of want to remake as well, amongst all the other new ones, but... And that's why it was only the ones that I looked... It's hard, because some of them are so old, I, like, forget them. And then someone's like, hey, I was watching your video, Christian Pagan Synthesis, and I'm just like, Christian Pagan Synthesis? Man, that sounds cringe. Oh, you're right, yeah, the video I made, yeah. So I'm like, I leave a couple of them up, but a lot of them, some of them I'm just like, And it's hard because it's not even that my opinions have changed, or even that I've, like, grown out. You know, maybe I'd describe it a little bit different if I do it again, but I don't know. That's why I didn't completely unlist them. Like, if you really want to view them, you know, I guess become a member, but if you like them too, Tyler? I mean, you're a member, so you're all good, Tyler. But yeah, I'm gonna leave these live streams, obviously, for the public. I'm not gonna make these members only. It's more the stuff that was really cringe. I thought I'll just make it members only. Past self is most noticeably cringe with audio and video. Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. It's like, ugh, sleepy eye. Anyway, what are we talking about? Elizabeth. So this young girl got a shock, instantly wished to share her happiness with her bosom friend, who was some distance off, and shouted to her to look at that dear bull. Now, I ask you, how should she have called this quadruped being, since it actually was a bull? Really, beefsteak, as advised by the esteemed headmistress of this esteemed higher educational institution, which existed there especially for the education of children? I'm loving this hate for education institutions. According to the barbarous system of theirs existing there, to their misfortune also at the present time. Another guy says, well, some of those old videos I found to have the try-hard mysterious vibe to it. Which is cringe, but I still found it good. Bruh. So I don't know. A remake of those videos would be good. Yeah. Thanks, bro. Thanks, bro. Lol. Dies, exactly. As you see, my boys. My boy, intending to tell you a little more about three-brained beings who have interested you and who breed on the continent of North America. Sorry. Fucking Enigma in the chat edging to this right now. Jesus Christ. I have, by the way, said a great deal in general about the three-brained beings arising and existing on all the continents of that peculiar planet. I don't think you will have any grievance against me for this, since you have at the same time managed to learn many more facts elucidating the details of their strange psyche. Concerning especially what is called the degree of degeneration of the common presence of those who compose this contemporary large group on the continent America, in respect to the loss of possibilities for the acquisition of being nearer to the normal being of three-brained beings in general, I can tell you something somewhat consoling for them, namely that in my opinion there remains among them the largest percentage of beings in whose presences the said possibility is not entirely lost. The crippling fear of one's own cringe is exactly what the rulers are counting on, says Fine Free in the chat. Which is like, I'm just bouncing between Gurdjieff and the chat. Bring cringe as thou wilt. It's not that the cringe is bad. It's not that I fear my cringe. It's this, I need to transmute the cringe. Now, how many pages left do we have of this chapter? Because I am considering actually just kind of ending it. And maybe just... just doing one last final part. Yeah, we've got 200 pages left of the entire book. We've really been on a journey, guys. We've been on a journey. Although this new group composed of, and still continues to be increased by 3-brained beings breeding on the continent of Europe, where for such beings with the aforementioned possibilities, it is already necessary, particularly in recent times, as our wise teacher Mullah Nasruddin says on such occasions, to look specially with the most powerful electric arc lamps. Nevertheless, I repeat, in the large group, there is a large percentage of such beings that on the continent of Europe, it seems to me that this has happened because they have migrated there, and still now migrate from other continents of Europe, from the other continent, Europe, beings chiefly from among what are called the simple beings. Sorry, thank you, Tyler, for the donation. To the next, my boy. This happened because they have migrated there, and still now migrate. Sorry, just let me get this one paragraph. Beings chiefly from among what are called the simple beings, who are not, so to say, the hereditary offspring of the European beings belonging to the ruling class, caste, in whomst, thanks to transmission by inheritance from generation to generation during long centuries of predisposition to Hasnamusian properties there, is at the present time so much of what is called inner swagger that it would never permit them to blend with the general mass in order to strive together with the common efforts to become such 3-brained beings as they should be. Yeah, that's one problem. So one problem with education, it's like, what's Hasnamusian and what's not? Yeah, that's what I was wondering. What do you mean? What do you mean by to the next, my boy, please? Oh, yeah, right. As in, to go the next, my boy. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. And then that's a good place to end. So, thanks only to the fact that among the 3-brained beings breeding on that continent, there were only very few of the offspring of the ruling caste, and that the general mass of beings was in itself a medium in which it was still possible for our brother to exist and not be under the influence of those local radiations which are formed owing to the surrounding beings, and which act harmfully on what are called the subjectively natural inner forces of every being. I was therefore able, during my stay among them, to rest as I desired. Because it's like, has anyone been to Europe? That's one thing I notice about Europe is there's like, especially in towns outside cities, like I remember I went to Avila in Spain. Beautiful place, beautiful place. But like outside of the castle, and even inside the castle, there's this ambient sadness. Europe just has this weird ambient sadness to it that you just don't get in like America, say. And I think it's, and there, yeah, it really is. The higher caste just kind of educates themselves in this way. And it's hard because education gives you a kind of resistance against certain things, but there are Hasnamusian tendencies, bad things, which get codified in the education and just get stuck there in the academy. And it's like, you can't extract them. So what do you do? It has so much history, it has a heavy feeling. Yeah, it's this weird heavy feeling in Europe. It's really weird atmosphere, but like it's that radiation that can affect the being of someone growing up there. So basically, this is why Beelzebub went to America. It was so he could rest. Another guy says, to think Gurdjieff would mention swag in one of his works. Exactly. Those Americans, they got that inner swag, baby. But yeah. So America doesn't have that. America being made out of the base beings of Europe, they were able to escape this. But I mean, you know, there's now a hierarchy there. An American aristocracy has now crystallized, I think, after a certain period of time. And it's hard. Then some Europeans come, like old money Europeans and new money Americans breeding together is a weird. There's this new kind of techno-feudalistic class arising. Really weird. Really interesting to see what the future will hold. R.I.P. Gurgit would have loved modern politics. Now, I think we're going to leave it here, my boys. And I'll see y'all next week. See y'all next. Thank you, Tyler, again, for all the donationos. If anyone else wants to help out, keep the lights running here. Do consider donating, one-time donation via PayPal, becoming a YouTube member. Donating via coffee, anything helps, bros. Anything helps, in all seriousness. It really does. Thank you all again. I'll see y'all next week. We're gonna finish this chapter, chapter 42. We're gonna finish off America. No more edging. Next week, we'll finally have a release from this chapter. See you there, guys. Next time.